leatherwork. So I got into leatherwork about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, and I've been doing things here and there, making bags, wallets. But today I'm going to do something really simple. It's going to be a hat band. So it's something that goes around the inside rim of your hat, and or I should say the outside, because it's on the outside, not the inside. And we'll do some tooling, and I'll show you how that's done. So let's get to it. Right? So we're going to start off by picking our piece of leather, and I use veg tan, usually between a 4 and a 6 ounce. That's a fairly thin piece of leather. You can go even thinner, but you can also go much thicker. We're going to use about a 6 ounce, and what you do is we're going to pull it out and we're going to cut a strip. That strip can be, as wide as you want. I'm going to make mine about an inch wide. And then we need to measure the size of the hat. So the size of the hat will dictate how much leather you need to cut. I think my hat is about 24.5 inches in circumference. So we're going to cut that out, or at least enough to make that band. I'll cut a little bit more because we'll trim at the end. Once we trim the leather, then we want to prepare it for tooling or stamping. So in order to do that, you have to get it wet. You need to wet down the leather pretty consistently, not so it's like drowning in the water, but I use a sponge. And when I use the sponge, I dab it, and then I'll wipe it down and make sure that all of it is covered. I'll let it sit for a little while. And then after it's sat for a while, I will take a compass and I will score the edges, so I have sort of a guide for where my stamps are going to go. And I'll run that score all the way down the edge, both edges of the leather. After I've done that, I'll take the stamp, or the stamps that I've decided on. And this one I'm going to use this sort of arch here and a circle, sort of a flower stamp. And then also this other one that's sort of like a sun flare, or it's a flare. So I start with the arch, and what I'll do is I'll stamp that all the way down the leather, leaving a little gap in between for the little flower stamp. And I'll do that on both sides. What you want to do is you want to make sure that when you go down one side, when you come back on the other side, it's lined up with all the other ones on the opposite side. That way it's a nice even pattern. So once I finish the arch stamp, I will take the flower stamp and I'll stamp that in between each one. And I continue stamping until I'm done with the other one. So once you're done with your hat band, what I like to do is I'll wrap it back around the hat, and then I'll mark where it would meet when it's sewn together. And then I'll cut that. And then once that's cut, then I will take a hole punch, which is basically designed to cut or punch an even spaced holes so you can stitch through it. And then I'll do that on both ends that butt up against each other. And then I'll take some wax thread. I have this yellow wax thread, but sometimes I could use brown or red. It depends on what color you want to use, but in this case I'm just going to use yellow. And I take 2 needles and I tie that thread. I tie the needles to either end of that thread. Make sure that when you're doing it, cut enough thread so you can sew them together. Once I'm done with that, I'll tie it off on the inside, and then I'll cut the thread off pretty close to to where the knot is, and then I'll take a lighter and I'll heat it up, and because it's wax thread, it'll melt a little bit, and then I'll just sort of burnish it down a little bit so it's flush. Once it's done, it's still kind of wet. So what I'll do is then I'll take the finished product and I'll put it over my hat. That way, when it dries, it's at the size of my hat. And that's it. That's really all that's involved with making a hat band. I hope this I hope I can create other ones that are of interest to you. I've actually made this bracelet here. So this one here, all I did was I used those same hole punching, and I punched holes in there, and then I sort of angled it so it looks like a lightning bolt, and then I sewed in the yellow thread. I'll be bringing other creative stuff to you that I do. Some of it maybe sign making, or at least enamel paint, like on a helmet. I think that's a project that I wanted to do, and I'm sure I have other creative stuff that I could do. Maybe we'll have a sketch day and I can sketch some stuff. But send me any comments or ideas that you think are cool. Like and subscribe. I look forward to bringing more stuff to you. Thanks.